you know, left to right. Okay.
Mhm.
And I just want your opinion on it. And if anything else comes spiritually, you know, I just
Well,
want.
height is top to bottom. Your width and your length, you could say your width could be right to left, and then your length would be front to back. Like if you look at your house, how high is your house? That's top to bottom. How wide is your house? That's left to right. And what's the length of your house? That would be front to back.
Okay, it was the width, the width of it, how wide it is, and the height. Because if the height and the width is the same, how can you say the height is not the width? Because it's the same. So numbers don't really matter when it's all the same all the way around, or do it?
Well, when you say height, if you clear that word, what does the word height actually mean? Now, if you have a box, okay, if you have a square, okay, or rather you have a cube, three-dimensional. If you have a cube, then the length, the width, and the height are all the same. So
Okay.
technically, it wouldn't make a difference. But
Okay.
if you're a carpenter,
Right.
and you're given blueprints to make a house, you better know the difference between length, width, and height. Or your house is going to come out looking totally different than the person had wanted. Does that make sense?
Yes. So you're saying only when it's even, like a
When
cube.
when you're dealing with a cube, okay, a cube or squares, your length, width, and height is all going to be the same. The height is just giving you the dimension as far as height is up and down, width is back and forth, right to left, and height is front to back, you know. But when you deal with like a rectangle, you want to make sure you label those correctly. Height is not the same as the width. Even though the numbers might be the same, the dimension is not the same. Because let me ask you this question. If you were to say that you were 5 feet tall, then your height would be 5 feet, right?
Right.
But you wouldn't be 5 feet wide.
Okay. So I'm dealing with from top to bottom with
Your
the height.
height, and
Right.
then we have to clear those terms. Because when you deal with height, you're dealing with altitude. You're dealing with top to bottom, basically.
Okay.
The numbers might be the same, but just because the numbers are the same doesn't mean that the width and the height are the same. Would you want to be 5 feet wide?
No, I'll just take 5 feet.
Yes, ma'am. Well, let's see, who else do we have? Sister Ania, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How is everyone?
We are fine.
Good, thank Allah.
Praise be to Allah. We are doing fine also.
Praise be to Allah. Sister Deborah, assalamu alaikum. And we'll wait till she gets off mute. Sister Tina, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir, and family. Happy
Okay.
Savior's Day.
There's that energy.
Statement.
Brother Timothy, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, and greetings to everyone.
Greetings.
Can you hear Sister Deborah? We don't hear you. I see you're off mute, but we don't hear you. All right. Well, family, we know what we're here for today. Do we have any math problems, questions, curiosities, confusions? Go ahead, Sister Deborah. You're on mute.
Okay, I was wondering if you can hear me. You were kind of going in and out. I was speaking, but I'm not sure if you heard me.
No, I can hear you now, though.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, let's deal with some mathematical engrams. That's awfully quiet.
I had wanted to go through some problems, just working some PEMDAS problems.
So you just want to work through some problems and utilize some PEMDAS. Okay. Who here does not know what PEMDAS is?
I don't.
Okay, Brother Allen doesn't know PEMDAS, so we gotta clear up that misunderstood. Anyone else not understand what PEMDAS is? PEMDAS is what
No.
you could go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I do not.
Okay. PEMDAS is what you could call,
No, sorry, I do not.
okay. It is what I call the restrictive law of mathematics. It's also called the order of operations. And in all the math that you do, from arithmetic up to calculus, going through trigonometry, no matter what mathematics you do, all the levels of mathematics follow this law, order of operations. In other words, when you're solving a problem, you can't just solve it the way that you want to solve it. It has to be done in a specific order. It's kind of like Islam. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We can't walk Islam the way we want to walk Islam and think we're going to get the desired results. We have to walk Islam in the way that it has been given to us, correct?
Right.
So, well, like for example, we have a restrictive law. And our success comes as a result of how obedient and how steadfast and how close we become to following the restrictive law as it is. Now, granted, every one of us is going to slip up here and there. That's just part of the process. I remember the minister saying, "Seek ye first the kingdom and all its righteousness, and then all things will be added unto you." He says, but the problem is that we seek the riches first. So, mathematically speaking, the first thing you want to understand when you begin your journey into learning mathematics, well, there's two important points. One, there's only 4 operations in mathematics. What are those 4 operations? Anyone?
Addition, division, multiplication, and subtraction.
Okay. No matter where you go in mathematics, that's all you got. Even in calculus, with all those crazy equations, I can show you all these crazy equations, and all those crazy equations boil down to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. As you journey in mathematics, those 4 operations can be used in different sequences and in different combinations. And when they're done in different sequences and different combinations, now you have what's called formulae or equations. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the formula or the equations are just basically recipes. In the language of Dianetics, they're like cycles of action, because you start with an equation, and then if there's an unknown variable in there, like 3x plus 2 equals 8, you got to figure out what that x is. So you have to input a number. So you have a start, you have a change, and then the stop would be actual solution. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay. So when you begin, so what I do is, what makes certain concepts easier, as I'm studying the tech of Dianetics, I'm learning how to apply the tech to what I'm already studying. And for me, it has made it even easier to understand certain concepts. And it's also become easier to have recall. There's one thing to learn something, but then it's another thing to be able to recall what you learned, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we can study for a test. You can study all week long, but if you can't recall the information, then all that studying is for naught, because now you sit down to take the test, and now you can't go into your memory to pull out the information that's necessary to do well in the test. And then with your study, you have to go beyond just memory. You have to get into what's called, you have to understand what you're learning. Has anyone ever studied something just to cram information just to pass a test? Has anyone ever done that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What was the result of cramming for a test? You
The
got past
result for
the test, huh?
the result for me was that I really, after passing the test, if I even passed it, I forgot the information afterwards.
If you got the information afterwards. So what
Right.
happens is this: take a college student, or even a high school student, or whatever we're studying. When you look at all the subjects that you study, I'm gonna use college specifically. Throughout the semester, you might have, your spring semester, you might study, let's say 5 courses. You might have 5 subjects that you study. So then in the course of a year, that's 10. And then in the course of 4 years, let's say you studied 40 different subjects in order to get your degree. But if you crammed for all that, then when you finish your 4 years of study, you have a piece of paper called a degree. But now how much information can you recall?
Right.
So basically, what did you just pay? You just paid $40,000, $50,000 for a piece of paper that says you have a degree, but you don't have anything to show that you have a degree.
Right.
Okay. So it's one thing so now, no matter how many degrees you get, then we just become jackasses carrying books, or jackasses carrying degrees. Because we have all these diplomas on our wall now. But if an individual asks us questions about what it is that we studied, we can't recall anything. So the one thing I've learned that has worked a great deal for me is through the tech of what L. Ron Hubbard established, showing not only the importance of study, but giving the techniques on how to study. And as a result, when I look at mathematics, I look at mathematics in a totally different way. That concept of a cycle of action is so key, that when you begin to apply that one simple concept to anything you study, at least for me, it helps me understand the concept, and then I have a better recall of the information. Anyone else got any thoughts, any questions?
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Yes, sir. I did have a question. I noticed that in the PEMDAS, the second part after parentheses is exponents. And then I saw that with exponents, there's like 10 laws. I saw what is 10 laws of exponents, and there's 7 laws of exponents.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if there's something in that that needs to be studied. I don't really actually understand the laws of exponents.
Ooh, the laws of exponents are actually pretty interesting. When you look at PEMDAS, let's go back to 2 important points from A Torchlight for America that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave us. My favorite spot, and I've quoted these pages probably hundreds of times, between pages 48 and page 51 of A Torchlight for America, there's 2 key principles the minister gave us. One, he says you put God at the center of what you study. Okay, put God at the center of the education. The second thing he says is that whenever you study a concept, and I'm just paraphrasing it, whenever you study a concept, look at it from the standpoint that you're studying yourself. Does anyone remember reading that at all? or hearing that?
Something to that effect, Brother Lukman. I
Okay.
do.
Right.
If you go back, Torchlight for America, pages 48 to page 51, it's the chapter that deals with education. That right there is the premise pretty much of everything that I've done in the field of education over the past 20 years. Those two points. Because when you take, and I'll use PEMDAS as an example. If you look at PEMDAS and you look at it from the perspective of making it applicable to yourself, making it personal, then it's easier to remember. And I'll give you an example. The P in PEMDAS stands for what, Sister Tina?
Parentheses.
Okay, so now, so when you deal with parentheses, in the study of algebra, whenever you have an equation and there's a parentheses, now what I want you to do is I want you to look at an equation as a representation of yourself. Okay, so we're gonna do what L. Ron Hubbard kind of says a lot. He says we're gonna do a mock-up. Take an equation, okay, and act as though that equation is you. If there's a parentheses in that equation, the parentheses is called the inner part of the equation. Okay. So if the parentheses is the inner part of the equation, then what's the rest of the equation?
The outside.
The outer part.
Okay. So an equation has an inner part and it has an outer part. But now in order to solve this equation, what must you do first? According to PEMDAS, you have to do what first?
What's in the
Solve it.
parentheses?
What's in the parentheses? Now, translate that to yourself as if you were the equation. In order to figure out anything about yourself, what must you first do?
Look at yourself or study yourself.
Go inside.
Go inside. You got to go
Yeah.
into the inner part of self.
Mhm.
So
Okay. Go into the inner part. So when we do the inner part of self, what are we looking at?
Mind.
Okay. Anyone else?
Your heart.
Your heart. There's no wrong answer. Whatever your answer is, that's your truth. I think Sister Deborah, were you about to say something?
no, so
Okay. So the inner part of ourself. Okay. We are an equation.
I was
Oh, go ahead.
saying, we need to study self.
Yes. Okay. So in reality, all of us are an equation. Okay. The way I look at life is like this. I am an equation and I have been brought into existence to solve it. I have to solve this. Okay. I understand that my true self and my physical body are two separate things. There are certain things that I carry around that inhibit me from solving my equation. Okay. L. Ron Hubbard calls these wild variables. I think he also called them hidden variables. So if I were to give you an equation within a variable, if I said A plus 3 equals 5, what does A represent?
So A plus 3.
A plus 3 equals 5.
A represents 2.
Okay, so you're given an equation that has variables, then you figure out the variable. And once you figure out the variable allows you to figure out the solution, correct? Or
Yes.
figure out why the
Yes, sir.
solution is the solution, you have to figure out the variable, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so in order to figure out what this equation is or why it is, you had to figure out the variable. Now, if you clear the word variable, you look it up in a dictionary, one of the terms that is synonymous with is aberration.
Mm.
So what's making us aberrated? What is it that slows down our memory? What causes us to be angry? What causes us to act other than our own self? are these variables that exist that we haven't solved yet. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just like an equation, you start inside the parentheses. Now, if you look, does anyone have their supreme wisdom handy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, open up your supreme wisdom to Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2, question number 1. Who made Holy Quran or Bible? How long ago? Will you tell us why does Islam renew her history every 25,000 years? And it should say, if I remember correctly, the Holy Quran or Bible was made by the original man, who is Allah, the supreme being, black man in Asia. And the word black man, the black man is inside parentheses.
Are you able to pull up the visual of it?
I could, yes, yeah, actually I could pull it up. Just give me 1 second to work my magic on the screen here.
Who made Holy Quran? You said, what is the shoot? You said number 2 and what number in number 2?
It's question number 1. Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2, question number 1.
Yeah, let me see this in parentheses.
Where you at? Okay, there you are.
Yeah, supreme being. Okay, black man is in parentheses. The supreme being or black man is in parentheses.
Okay, now let's look at that from a mathematical standpoint. I'll put that right here. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just for the sake of mathematics, again, this is just the method that I use to study because it helps me remember things. If you look at the fact that we're talking about the original people, who is Allah, the supreme being, or a black man of Asia, okay? The fact of black man being in parentheses, when I first saw that, to me, on a mathematical level, I looked at that from the standpoint of that's the problem that has to be solved in order to get to Allah and the supreme being. You got to first solve the black man of Asia. That's something that has to be solved first. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you look at our student enrollment, question number 1 is what?
Who was the original man?
And the answer is what?
The original man.
is an Asiatic black man, the maker,
The owner, the cream of the
God
planet,
of the
God of the
universe.
universe. But in order to get maker, owner, cream of the planet, God of the universe, you have to first figure out who, you got to solve the first problem first.
And it's actually in there twice, Brother Lukman,
Mhm.
question number 1 of lesson number 2.
Mhm.
So it's emphasized again
Something
further
about
down.
Mhm. So what I do as I read, I look for these little things, little nuances, little clues. It's like, to me, the supreme wisdom is more than just lessons. There's layers of information buried here. And like archaeology, the more you dig into the earth, the further back you can go back into the past, and then you find out different civilizations from the past, correct?
Yes, yes, sir. Now, what I noticed is that in number 1, that what's in parentheses, black man is not capitalized. The black is not capitalized like it is in student enrollment.
Mhm.
Black black is capitalized, is the original, yeah, black man is capitalized,
Mhm.
but it's not in lesson number 2 in the parentheses. Black man is not capitalized.
Okay.
Okay, that says something to me.
Okay.
That
But-
have to become that capitalization.
Okay. Okay. That works. So now, once we look at an equation, and see if I can pull an equation up here. Do this. Let me do the whiteboard. Okay. Can everyone see my whiteboard? So if I give you this equation, if I say 3 plus 2, and I do this, and I say 4 squared, and I say minus 2 equals. So X means this, our answer is unknown. What part of this, now, if we just solve this straight across without following the rules, we won't come up with the right answer. So we have to follow the rules that have been established in order to solve a problem that has multiple levels to it. So as an individual, we've already established, we look at PEMDAS, P is parentheses. We have to look into ourselves first. And then what's the next thing you have to solve in PEMDAS?
Exponents.
Exponents. Now, here's an interesting thing. Matter of fact, let me take this off because I want to show you something about exponents.
But look, man,
Yes.
as you solve it, and you put it above the actual problem, like the exponents, the 16th, that that the 4 times 4, and what it
Okay.
is.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I'll
You
do that.
understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I can actually see, how you go about doing this. Okay.
Okay. So now let's look at exponents. If I say 3 squared, what am I actually saying? This is shorthand writing for 3 times 3, correct?
Yes.
Which equals what?
9.
Which equals 9. Now, here's something that some of you might be familiar with, some of you might not be familiar with. But if I was to do 3 with a negative exponent, how would I rewrite that to get rid of the negative exponent? How can I, now this is, again, cycle of action. This is start, this is start, this is change, this is stop. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So we're using the tech to understand mathematics. But if I have 3 with a negative exponent, do you know how I would rewrite that?
No, sir.
Okay. Whenever you have a negative exponent, you write 1. You have to put the number underneath the 1, and that changes the sign of the exponent, which means I have 1 over 3 times 3, which equals what?
9.
So I got 1 over 9, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, watch this. If someone could take a calculator and divide 1 by 9.
Yes, sir. You get like point and a whole bunch of ones. I can count them.
Okay, so 0.1.
0.1, 1,
Okay.
1. Yeah.
Okay, now watch this. If you look at the word exponent, again, I study this to figure out how my mind works. I'm using the tech and I'm using the math and the Islam all at the same time. Someone pull up the word exponent. If you have a dictionary, on your computer, on your phone, or have a dictionary handy, pull up the word exponent.
Yes, sir. I have it up.
Okay, read the definition for the word exponent.
Exponent is a person who believes in and promotes the truth or benefits of an ideal or theory.
Okay, let's use that definition. A person that believes in and promotes an ideal or a theory, correct?
Yeah, and it has a mathematical one as well.
Okay, we can use that one, but I want to lean towards the definition that you gave.
Yes, sir.
An exponent is also a person. Okay, now, do you have synonyms located there?
Yes, sir. You have advocate, supporter, proponent, backer, defender, champion, promoter, propagandist, spokesperson.
Okay, now, if you look at an exponent as a person externally, who is an exponent that we're all familiar with?
The minister.
Minister Farrakhan.
The minister is an exponent, correct?
Yes.
But now look at what this exponent is doing to the 3. The 2 is not really doing anything to the 3. The 2 is telling the 3 to multiply itself and make itself greater. Is that what's happening?
Yes, sir.
So isn't that what an exponent does?
Yes, sir.
Isn't that what the minister is telling us to do?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change their own condition. So that 2 is like a person that's telling the 3 represents what's called the base. And the base is how we perceive ourselves. We are the foundation of our own growth and development. That exponent is telling the base how to get there. Does that make sense?
Brother
Yeah.
Lukman,
Yes.
do you mind explaining that all again, please?
Sure. That word exponent, by definition, exponent is a person that believes in an ideal, they represent an ideal, they are an advocate for something, okay? So when you look at the mechanics of this from a mathematical standpoint, 3 squared, it is as though the 2 is instructing the 3 to multiply itself. Okay, the 2 is saying to the 3, in order to make yourself greater, you have to do it yourself. So the 2 is giving the 3 the instructions on how to make itself greater. Does that make sense, Estania?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when we look at the exponent outwardly, that's the same thing that the minister does. The minister is not necessarily making us greater. The minister is giving us all the tools and instructions and information that we need because we have to do that ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we have an external exponent. What would be the internal exponent? Think of the study guides.
The will.
We could say the will, yes. What else in the study guides could be like an exponent?
The God within.
We could say the God within, but let's get a little more specific. Opening letter to self-improvement study program.
Self-accusing spirit.
Self-accusing spirit.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So this is a symbolic representation of this is how I see it. An equation is a communication from the God in symbolic form. And then as we study our mathematical theology, we begin to understand the language and the symbolism, and it reawakens and gives us a knowledge of who we are. Does that make sense?
Sir.
Go ahead, Brother Timothy.
Now, I was just going to say, I was looking at the synonyms of the word exponent, and two of them kind of stuck out too, along with what we already talked about, was apostle and evangelist. And it goes back to the self-accusing spirit, how we kill the messenger of God daily. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, since you went down that road, let's look at that. What do you think that -2? That's a negative exponent, right?
Yes, sir.
So what happens if you kill the exponent? If you negate the exponent?
Lower the value.
It lowers the value to a fraction, right?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Brother Timothy, look up the word fraction for us.
Yes, sir. 1 second.
I know that got something to do.
Huh?
Yes, sir. It's two definitions that came up. Numerical quantity that is not a whole number, a small or tiny part, amount, or a portion of something.
You got any synonyms?
Yes, sir. A fragment, a snippet, a snatch, a little, a bit, a hint.
Do you have a word group?
Like the origin.
The origin of the word should be fractus, I think.
Yes, it's let me see. I see in Latin fractio, breaking, which means breaking.
Okay. Let's look at that. Because the break is a Dianetic term, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's look at this. Let's look at this from the internal standpoint. You look at this 3 to the -2. That's the same as negating the self-accusing spirit. So now, as soon as you negate the self-accusing spirit, it makes us less than who we are, correct? Because 1/9 is less than 3, correct?
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Now, what's 0.01 on the tone scale?
Ooh.
Apathy, around apathy or something, right?
Isn't that apathy?
I was thinking about the decimals. That was another, the engram. It's real small, as well as low on the tone scale. But I was looking at, when you're doing percentage, when you're doing decimals, the one, I ain't gonna say it's not nothing, but it's not much of anything,
Right.
I think. Am I saying it
No,
right?
no, you're correct, because now we're less than 1. But let's look at something the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said also. He says we are the 0, and when God came and stood in front of us, that made us 10, correct?
That's right.
But now when we want to do things the way we want to, we put ourselves in front of God and we become what?
A fraction.
So you see how the math, you can actually learn Islam at the same time?
Yes, sir. And Brother Lukman, what I'm seeing also in the 3 -2 as being the exponent, that's turning, if the minister represents the exponent or the exponent represents the minister, then if we make that a -2, then that's negating, when we negate what the minister is instructing us to do.
Deep, sister.
Yeah,
Teach on
then we become a fraction instead of a whole.
We become broken.
We become broken.
So here we learn mathematics, Dianetics, and Islam at the same time.
Yes, sir.
And the 2 that don't have a minus, that's I think that's like the positive effect, and you become a whole person with the 9 not having.
You actually become greater.
Okay. Oh yeah, and you become greater, right?
Mhm.
Right.
You become
Wow.
greater.
Right. That reminds me of when the minister said, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to him about there will be two backing you, brother, Allah and myself.
Mhm.
And we have three backing us, you know. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
That
So-
would explain too why Jesus says greater works can you do.
Exactly.
Mm.
We're supposed to be doing works greater than the minister,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
we should never get beside ourselves and think that we're greater than the minister.
come on.
That's right.
And I think 9 is like coming to birth,
Ooh, that's another one.
Mhm.
See,
you know.
see, all these cognitions are starting to come to the surface
Oh,
now.
wow. Like, you know, we do not know how great we are.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. Help.
Yeah. And in this exercise right here, Brother Lukman, it's helping me understand better that mathematics is Islam and Islam is
Mhm.
mathematics.
That's right.
I'm understanding that better.
Mhm.
Mm.
Now, let's look at the exponent from a Dianetic standpoint. In Dianetic tech, what would the exponent represent? If we say 3 is the preclear, then 2 represents who?
The auditor,
Okay. What would the -2 represent?
the aberration, the engram.
No, let's go externally. -2 would be called the who?
The suppressor.
The suppressive person.
Yes, sir.
Ah.
Because how many of us have had negative exponents in our life and they made us less than ourselves and brought us to
Man.
below the tone scale, to 0.1?
Man.
We can do this math all day long
Oh man.
because it's a theology. This is our Islam. This is our Islam in symbolic form.
Mhm.
And the beauty of it is, here's the beauty of it. See, once you understand the mechanics of how this works from a left brain perspective, meaning you understand it for what it is. We're just learning the rules of mathematics. When you start to look at it from the perspective of the right brain, that means you can take this and understand so many other things. So now we're understanding, how many of you have learned something about yourself just by using this small little operation that we've just conducted?
Yes, sir. This is tremendous, brother.
Okay, so we've learned something about ourselves, we've learned something about our Islam, and we learned something about Dianetics all at the same time.
Mhm.
And we haven't even got to we just did the P and the E. We've just started the first part of PEMDAS.
Mhm.
And then we look at exponents. What are you actually doing? This is just multiplication. That's all it is.
No, you're on mute.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Shayla.
Walaikum salam, sir.
How are you?
I am late. I acknowledge I'm late.
No, don't worry about it. We're just glad that you're here.
Mhm.
You got here when Allah saw fit for you to be here.
There you go. Thank you, brother.
Okay. So now,
So
how
great.
many of us look into your look into your own mind right now, look into your environment and ask yourself, how many negative exponents do you have around?
Mm.
Huh.
And when you look at the fact that there's negative exponents, are these the things that are bringing you down the tone scale, maybe to 0.1?
Agreed.
Now watch this. Let's say I take this number. I'll take 4 to the -3. Okay, that equals, oh wait, let me clear that. Erase this. Okay. This is 1. Oh, come on now. Gotta learn how to use this thing. Okay. This would be 1/4 to the 3rd, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Which is equal to 1 over 4 times 4 times 4, correct?
Yes, sir.
Which is equal to 1 over what?
That's 16 times 4.
Should be
So-
64.
64.
Yeah, 64.
Okay, now if someone gets a calculator, what's 1 divided by 64?
0.01.
So you got
Five.
0.01.
0. 1.
So if you notice, anytime you start dealing with fractions, you start going, if you look at those decimal points, as far as places on the tone scale, you're going closer and closer and closer to death.
Mm.
So what lesson do we learn from that? Who would like to give your cognition of what you have learned about yourself or Dianetics or Islam up to this point, just based on this basic understanding of mathematics?
Well, what I'm saying is that negative thinking takes us further and further to death.
Ooh. You mean spiritual death eventually leads to physical death? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Same. Yes, sir.
So we can say that what minister teaches us can be backed up by mathematics. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What else can we learn from this?
I'm saying also that like the looking at the -3 and that being a suppressive person. And I think, like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, like there's a below apathy is like is that kind of like psychotic?
Well,
Or is
psychotic
that
is
in
definitely
between?
there. Psychotic is
Right.
definitely below the tone scale, below 2.0, most definitely.
So what I was looking at was that the more suppressive persons that could be in your environment, the lower your tone scale as well.
That's called re-stimulation, right?
Right.
That's why change of environment is actually a valid therapy, because what's keeping us aberrated is the fact that there are certain elements that keep our minds in the past. Psychotics, their mind is in the past. Neurotics are stuck in the present, and the clear is constantly aiming towards the future, postulating, correct?
Yes, sir.
But if there's people in our environment that are re-stimulative, then this person is constantly reminding me of someone from my past. Then I'm in the present, but I'm in the past at the same time, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. We can't exist in two places at one time.
That's right.
So that's the second part of PEMDAS. So we take the PEMDAS, and as you study, this is something new I learned from L. Ron Hubbard just in one of the lessons I just sent in yesterday. He says, if you're ever studying something and you're having difficulty in understanding it, he says, double what you are studying. Study something that's a little bit more harder. Because what he's saying is, if you study something that's a little more harder, it almost like it expands your mind in such a way that what the easier part that you had difficulty with will click. And that's what I've been doing for years. When I come across the concept that's difficult, I try to study it from a different perspective, and I try to go beyond it. And when I go beyond it, as I'm starting to understand it up here, I realize by default, I'm like, oh, now I understand this part. And I didn't even realize I understood it. So when I go through math, I try to follow the two things that the minister gave us. One, how can I put God in this subject that I'm studying and learn something more about God? That's number one. Number two, how can I learn something about myself? Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, sir.
So I know if I want to become greater, there's an exponent outside of myself. There's an exponent within myself.
Mhm.
Okay, Brother Timothy said that he looked at the synonyms and one word was apostle. Well, we already know exponent, we can equate that with the minister. So I have an external exponent who's constantly giving me instructions to multiply myself. Matter of fact, he said it like this. He says, You are the multiplier, and this universe is a multiplicand, and you're the one that has to produce a product. Have you ever heard him say that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But I also have a self-accusing spirit within myself that is an exponent that's placed here to make me greater. Then if I negate the minister, or if I negate the exponent within myself, what does it do? It reduces me below myself. So I become less than myself. And if I become less than self, then who am I now? I'm a colored man. I'm a savage. I'm uncivilized. What is my tone level? My tone level is below 1. As you do negative exponents, you'll always see that the decimal point, the number will always be less than 1. And anytime you're less than 1 on the tone scale, 1 is the area of apathy. So if we're in a state of apathy, now if you're talking to an individual and they're in a state of apathy, what do you already know? They're following a negative exponent. Now you have to figure out what that negative exponent is and then convert it to a positive. That's what auditing is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Brother Luke, man,
I got Sister Shayla, Sister Anya, and then who was that just spoke?
that's Sister Denise.
Okay, Sister Shayla, Sister Anya, and then Sister Denise.
Brother Lukeman, as you were speaking, LRH also says, I think it's in one, I don't want to misquote, but he also explains that when you are full to capacity with all of these things on our plate, I'm paraphrasing, this is not how he says it, but I had to demo this, is that we have all of these things and we feel I cannot make all of these commitments. And what we do is we start to, for a better word, say no to things that will make us expand. The more we feel that we can, the more we should take on, basically, because it's the only way that you will operate at your capacity. But logic tells us too much. But the antithesis to that would be take on more. And one of the things that you just did for me was to have someone understand the tone scale and where you yourself are at a particular point in time based on your state of mind and all the stimulants in your environment. It doesn't mean that that's where you're always going to be, but it gives you a pretty good idea if the way you simplify it being a 1, where you are on the tone scale. So you can know the tone scale without guessing it. And when you put someone on the tone scale, for sure, you will work less and be less stressed if you know the tone scale. That is a fact. Because we tend to be, and when I say we, Black people in general, we are very loving people, especially Black Americans. They're very loving people, and they see other people through their eyes and their heart, for a better word. But if you put people on the tone scale, you will not make the mistakes that you make right now. They don't need to know that they're on the tone scale, and you don't need to make a judgment. But on the tone scale, you'll find out how to deal with that tone that you win. Does that make sense? I hope I didn't confuse anyone.
No, that makes perfect sense, because remember, Allah says in the Holy Quran that the best way to determine where a person is by, and this is the only place in the Holy Quran where it says it, Allah says the tone of speech. And that's actually an ayah in the Holy Quran. L. Ron Hubbard says that the best indicator of a person's placement is through speech. So you're speaking right out of the Holy Quran and Science of Survival. And when you can locate them on the tone scale, then, and if you understand how the tech works, then you know exactly what to do to start pulling them up into the whole numbers now, get them out of the 0.1 up into the 1, 2, 3s, and 4s. That's how the auditing works. You're looking at a cycle of action. You start where the person is, or we can start where we are, because there's some days that we're in a funky mood, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. All you gotta do is identify what's the negative exponent. Is it externally or is it internally? You do a self straight wire. And then when you look at externally and internally, okay, well, when did this funky attitude start? Oh, it started at this point. Okay, what is the connection between this point and what changed? That person said X, Y, and Z. Okay, what was it about what they said that dropped my tone level?
Mhm.
So what are
Mhm,
we doing? We're using our mathematical theology
mhm.
in the proper term. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
But no, Sister Shayla, what you said is 100% correct. You never know what we're capable of until you take on something more. And then one thing L. Ron Hubbard just said is something I just read yesterday. He says, no matter how much you can handle, you can always handle a little more.
Correct.
So you're right and exact with the text, because I just read that. No matter what you can handle more. Go ahead, Sister Ania.
Before I ask my question,
Mhm.
or before I make my comments rather, could you, what was it you said, the best indicator of a person's what is their tone of speech?
Let me pull up the Holy Quran, let me pull up the ayat, because we like actual facts. Surah 47, ayat number 30. It says, in the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. And if we please, we could show them to thee so that thou shouldst know them by their marks. And certainly thou canst recognize them by the tone of their speech. And Allah knows your deeds. So it's about understanding people based on my understanding where people are based on what they say and how they say it. And if you look at the chart of attitudes, the indicators of where a person is on the tone scale is seen through what they say.
Okay, there was a word that you used. I was just trying to get that word when you said the best indicator of a person's blank is their tone of speech.
The
And you said,
location on the tone scale or the index?
I don't know, but you said that you were quoting L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh, the best indicator of a person's, I think it's location on the tone scale.
Okay.
That's Science of Survival. If you go to the chapter dealing with speech, it's right there in the first paragraph.
Okay. Yes, sir. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
So the comments I was going to make was in regard to change of environment.
Mhm.
And you said that there's certain elements that keep our mind in the past.
Mhm.
And so when you said that, I thought about not only just change of environment, but also changing the present environment, because you may not be able to go to a different location to clear up your attitude or clear out what it is. And so if we can use different examples, like we say when the new year rolls around and we make our new postulates, we say out with the old and in with the new.
Mhm.
And then spring comes around and we talk about spring cleaning.
Mhm.
And again, we're clearing out all of the clutter, getting rid of all of the old, making a fresh start with things. Sometimes it can just be tidying, when you say look around the room to see what is it that is in your environment that's taking you lower down the tone scale. Well,
Mhm.
maybe you just need to tidy up the room.
Mhm.
sometimes when you're feeling down and out and you feel like nothing's going right, sometimes just getting up and taking a shower, you know, it can change the way that you think.
Mhm.
And so that changing the present environment can be cleaning up the neighborhood. You know, if it's a blighted area, and then we come in and we put in, you know, neighborhood gardens. You know, we start clearing away all of the trash and the debris, planting trees and everything. It changes the whole atmosphere of the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And then even in our prayers, we say, turn away from me the evil and the indecent morals. So we're putting a guard on our thinking and not allowing in those things that take us down the tone scale or change our thoughts from positive thoughts to negative thoughts. Sometimes you just have to turn the dial on the radio
Mhm.
from those songs with all of the negative vibes and suggestions in it, and put on some jazz or classical music. So
Mhm.
I thought of change of environment in that way of changing the environment.
Mhm. Definitely.
Yes, thank you.
Sister Denise.
Yes, sir. Which brings me to the why he had sent me something about the brother talking about the power of the mind. And I thought about this demonstration of 4 times 4 times 4. And the decimal point and where it gets smaller and smaller. And so this demonstration was every time things would happen to the person, they would put a sheet on top of the person. And then something else would happen. So another sheet would come on top of the person. And the person had so many sheets on them that we couldn't see them anymore.
Mhm.
You know, they like they had disappeared. Okay. Because all we saw was sheets and not the person. And
Mhm.
as the demonstration went on, they began to think positive, thinking about all the good things that has happened to them in life, you know, which would be the positive 3 and the positive, you know, the 2 up
Mhm.
at the top. And they start thinking about it. And as they thought about it, sheets came off, came off, came off, and you really saw the real person. The real person was sitting there, but you couldn't see them at first because all that negativity had smothered them. And then sooner or later you disappeared. Nobody see you anymore. It's like, what happened to whoever, you know? And the that's the same with the negative spirit, you know, and it's like sometimes people feed on that. They want to hear something, tell me something bad, you know, and just add and add, and then sooner or later, you know, you begin to disappear. Like close your eyes to something good for you, because the negative sounds like, well, that's where I am, so that's where I need to be, and then you go to zero, and that's why people sometimes they look at zero as you're a loser, or whatever they say when you get to zero, you know.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. So that's what I was thinking with all this negativity and how to reverse it and turn it around where you can get rid of a lot of that,
Mhm.
you know, when you start thinking positive. Yes, sir.
Mhm.
That was my cognition.
Now, interesting point that you made with people bring you information, correct?
Mhm.
One thing I just read today, I just read it this morning. He says, and if you want to find the most aberrative person in your pre-clear's current life track, all you've got to do is find who gave him the worst news oftenest. So the negative exponent is the one who's always bringing us doggone bad news. Ooh, girl, guess what I heard? Ooh, guess what someone told me? Blah, 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 blah. Go ahead, Sister Shayla.
Agreeing with what the sisters were saying. When a person is in an accident, order is very important because the mind is recording. I don't know if you notice that usually, you know this, Brother Luke, man, because this is your line of work, but usually the police or whoever is there, they tell you to stay away, to give the person space, because the mind is recording and it needs order. And when you crowd the person, and this is in science of survival, why order is so important. Now, women make the mistake between order and cleaning. They're two different things. And the stable datum is to get order in. And order in doesn't mean organize. It just means get order in. For example, the dining room is full of stuff, right? Well, not your dining room, the one I'm looking at. And so I know where these things go, but if you are down on yourself on the tone scale, just make it nice and neat on the table, whatever it is. It doesn't matter that they're not in the same category and that they need to get clean. Just bring order into the environment, whatever that is, whatever that is. If it means, sisters, I'm talking to the sisters now, that the person is in such a chaotic state and you can't get them to move, or they can't get themselves to move a notch. Ask them to clean their pocketbook. Like Sister Anya said, just that one action, it's an action, will move the Thetan in a different state. I don't know where this correlates with the mathematics of it, but I do know because I did a lot of this to really own the datum to see if it worked, and it absolutely worked. Order is necessary to establish yourself on a higher tone. So the room is messy, you can't walk, whatever it is, just make the bed. That's it. That's it. You don't have to do anything else, because people are not where we are, and we have to understand that without judging them. I hope that contributes to someone on here.
So Sister Shayla, that's what you're talking about, falls in the line of what's called creative processing and postulate processing. What you're saying is actual facts. Now, how can we translate that to mathematics? Okay. Some of us still have these mathematical engrams. But now let's go and just handle the math that we can handle. If it means just going and doing multiplication tables, 1 times 5, 1 times 6, 1 times 7. Okay, do all these the basic mathematics. You complete that, you get them 100% correct. What happens? You've gotten back some theta, and now you're ready to handle, okay, let me handle the 2 times tables. Before you know it, you're doing 12 times 3, 12 times 4, 12 times 5. All of these are wins, but what you described is what's considered postulate processing. There have been times I've been in an org, and this was years ago. I saw a person with another person saying, okay, touch the wall. They want to touch the wall. Thank you. Go touch that wall. In my mind, I'm thinking, these people are out of their damn minds. I said, I wish I would walk around here touching some damn wall. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, what the hell is that? But then going further into tech, I understand when you have a person that's in a state of apathy and you can't get them to budge, you get some people that are just stuck to the couch and they're just, they can't do nothing. Do me a favor, can you just go and put the milk in the fridge? You're applying processing and they don't even know it. You got them get up, they got the milk, they put it in the fridge. Get them to do little things, because the scripture says, if you're faithful with little, I'll give you rule over much, right? Have you ever heard that before?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Well, that's processing.
Mm-hmm.
That's processing as written in the Bible. Get people to do little things. If you have a child that's just going through whatever, can you just do me a favor and just fold up your sweater? That's one little thing they can do. That's no problem. You just got a little theta back. Then you get them to do something. Just go ahead and throw that away for me. Thank you. What are you doing? You're processing. But I understand now these drills that they do in the org is meant to get a person who's stuck, and you got to get them up what he calls a gradient scale, degree by degree. You know, when you look at there's places in the Holy Quran where it describes the same process of doing things step by step and degree by degree. When you look at the one that we just read, where it talks about thou shalt know them by their marks. If I'm not mistaken, when you look at that word marks in Arabic, that word mark brings you to the word gradient. So you know them by their gradient, by the tone of their speech. So if you know where they are in the gradient scale, then all you got to do, there's certain things you can say to move them up slowly but surely. Then you get to, and if you look at the tone scale, at the bottom, it might say, I can't do certain things. When you go up towards anger and antagonism, I don't want to do certain things. When you go above that, it's I might be able to do certain things. And then when you get above that, says, I think I can do certain things. And you go a step higher, I can do those things. Those are the gradient scales of postulating. You move them up slowly. I know that's a lot of babbling, but that's just,
No, it's
but what Sister Shayla said is that's called postulate processing. That's actually further in the tech, postulate processing. He's also called it rising scale processing and creative processing. Those things took the place of the auditing. Those things help to build self-determinism. The auditing helps to reduce the engrams. You reduce the engrams to get the person to go up the tone scale. Later in the tech, he increases the determinism to get the person away from the engrams. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Go ahead,
sir.
Sister Tina.
It's two things. I was thinking about what Sister Shayla, as she was speaking, and she was talking about order, and it's not so much organizing. So I'm thinking to myself, you know, and as she was speaking, I'm thinking, I'm not sort of agreeing in my mind. But as she spoke more and more, I pictured myself, I did a mock-up in my mind of a cluttered room, just cluttered, and just putting everything in the closet, just getting everything out of the way and putting it in a closet. And to me, that's like what she was saying, order, just get it, clear it out. So now the room is clear, and I imagined myself thinking, now I can think, but when I think about that closet, I don't want to go in there, but at least I'm able to think now and decide how I'm going to get the closet cleared out now. But at least I can think, whereas before with the room cluttered, I wasn't even able to think. So I started agreeing with what she was saying, and I was able to see it, but I had to mock it up in my mind first because I never heard it put that way before. And then by you explaining it as you explained it, just made more sense that order, regardless if it's organized or not, there has to be an order so organization can take place after. And so that made a lot of sense. And that even makes my head feel lighter, even thinking about uncluttering the room first, put it all in the closet. And now I can think. Now I have some attention units back.
There you go.
So,
you got some faith. You got some life force back.
Yeah, some life force.
And,
so thank you for that. And also, what was said earlier, I had a situation this morning just before the call where I was talking to, a high school friend on the phone, and she said something that really, how somebody can say something to you, and then after that, you don't hear anything else they're really saying because your mind is on that thing that they just said. And everything else just goes past you. So I wasn't even hearing everything else she was saying. And I had to be honest with myself and honest with her. Otherwise, she would have just been wah, 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 wah. That's all it would have been. So I told her, I said, look, I can't get past what you said about such and such and so and so. My mind is like lingering on that. So we had to get that straightened out. And once we got that straightened out, then I was able to pay attention to what she was saying after that. But we had to get that little thing that made my mind not able to get off of it. We had to come back to it and address it in order for us to continue talking. So, yes, sir. But that showed me being honest with ourselves is so important. And that is dealing with also the auditing, the person being audited, without honesty, there's no progress.
Mhm.
That's true. That's true.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. Is that it, Sister Tina?
Oh, yes, sir. That's it. Thank
Oh.
you.
Go ahead, Sister Denise.
Yes, sir. What is that I'm trying to see, is that what you're talking, when they tell you, look at the ground, look at the walls, look to the left, look to the right, up at the org. Is that or if someone is talking, and I'm not saying that they're boring, but they might be. And so sometimes, I guess being a teacher, you have to kind of change the monotony. Is that what you're talking about when you call creative postulate? Or they do that from time to time in Scientology.
My understanding is this: by them saying look to the right, look to the left, look up, down, what you're doing is what? You are controlling your mess body in present time. It's a way to bring you back to present time.
Okay.
Because, and maybe we should start doing that, because I know when we were being Brother Batin's group, so many different topics would come up, and just based on things he would teach us, you can go back on your time track and you find some pleasure moments, but then you find some stuff that would re-stimulate you. And then Sister Jacqueline would bring us back to present time using that one list that's in self-analysis.
Mhm.
So what you're doing is look to the right. When you look to the right, what are you doing? You're taking control of this mess body. Look to the left. Okay, I'm looking to the left. Are you in present time? Yeah, because you just told me to look right and look left. I'm in present time now. I believe that's the purpose of those drills, is to, no matter what we're talking about, we come back to present time, and wherever we were, we leave that back there. We have an understanding of that now, and now we have the ability to refile it in our standard memory banks. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. That was a distraction.
Hmm.
Whatever that was. Would you call it a distraction, Brother Luke?
What's that, when someone says something?
Because you have to bring them back in present time, that they distracted in another world. I mean, maybe in another world.
How many of us have ever experienced this? After one of these Zoom meetings, we get off the camera, or even while we're on the camera, because a lot of us have our cameras off. The Zoom meeting's going on, but we just went back down the time track.
Yeah.
We took a journey, and there's a whole portion of the Zoom meeting we missed. We come back, we're like, we were here, but we weren't here. And there's a portion that we missed. And then sometimes say, bro, look, man, make sure you send me that Zoom meeting. We don't want to say the reason why I need it because I zoomed out. Some of us, we go back in the time track and we get stuck there for a minute. I mean, it's just, I understand that. That's just the reality of things. Sometimes as soon as I get off the Zoom meetings, I have to do some things with myself because, I'm not clear yet. There's certain things I go down the road, while I'm here, I'm good. When I get off camera and the Zoom meeting's over with, I gotta reel myself back in sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I know sometimes you want the meeting because the lights are on, but no one was home, but you're off camera, so no one saw it. Some of us get re-stimulated, right?
Yes, sir. Like, oh, I'm in class. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you forgot where you were. You were like this looking at the computer. And if you had your camera on, we'd be like, did your screen freeze? No, that person froze. The camera's working fine.
Mm.
The mess body is there, but the Thetan is down in Alabama somewhere. The Thetan then left. Body's
Yes.
right here.
and you travel out of your body, out of body.
You had an out of body experience. You had an out of mind experience. That's what
Yes,
happened.
sir. You forgot to leave a sign to be back in 10 minutes.
Yeah, good thing you had your camera off. We've been sitting there looking and say, is she dead? Is she froze? What the hell happened to her?
I know that's right. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Sister Shayla.
Just so a point of reference, about the statum datum, that is in the book of ethics. That has to do something with statistics. When you're doing statistics, that's where that stable datum come from. If you want to look it up, it's there. And the look at the wall, the process is a communication process, and it's designed for you to be with anything and anything at any time and be present. That is hard to do. That's why it's that's why it is how it is. If you don't have any confront, if you don't like to get into anything, if you just kind of like, you just want to get along, that would be a course for you. If you just want to be peaceful and don't make no waves, and that's the course for you, because it will get you present to what communication is and it's not. Another slight thing that we can always do to raise someone on the tone scale is to acknowledge their communication. Acknowledging someone's communication is not agreeing with their communication, but just acknowledge that you receive. In a nation, we tend to be very commanding. And the command go one way, but it's not returned. You know, that look like something like someone is talking to you and we move on to, okay, the person made a pause and we move on to someone else. That's not communication, because that person just went down. Either they know it or not. Another way you see this play out, if you say good morning to someone or assalamu alaikum and they don't return, we go into a judgment call when it's more being present, a communication. The person is not 100% present, so they did not acknowledge you. I know I'm talking a lot, but I think this was because the sisters get it, understand Dianetics much more than I think they give themselves credit for. They just know it under something else because we're already doing a lot of it, but we tend to be courteous and loving to one another. And that is a form of communication, because it's not in what we're saying, it's how we're being to one another. And just because you said, you know, I think the sky is blue. No, I think the sky is purple. And I said, I understand. It didn't mean I agree. It just means I acknowledge what you said. You don't have to tell them I don't agree with you. You just got to acknowledge them and we'll have less problems. This is why people is the communication piece that seems so easy, but it's not. Because we're not present. And you know this very well, Brother Luke, man. You just explain it, but that's why you do a course like that. You became like, people can curse at you, mistalk to you, and you don't feel, because you don't personalize it. You just know that is communication and it went nowhere towards you. So it keeps your environment very theta after you complete that course, because it's not personal. It's just
Keep your environment. What should Sister Shirley keeps your environment very what?
Very theta, meaning uptone, where you're, and sometimes this is very hard because we are operating in down environment when people are downtrodden and we're trying to help our people. We're not trying, we're helping our people work through certain things. We are not in a theta environment. That's a very theta. There's a lot of stimulation and a lot of things happening. You are the lights.
Mhm.
Each one of you are a light. So when you are being with people, you are shining light, but you are losing some of yours if you don't get into the study and into more of these things. Because you want to be uptone.
Mhm.
I talk too much.
No,
No, no, you're
ma'am, no.
making perfect sense. You're making
I
perfect
Yeah.
just hope because I know the sisters get it.
Yes,
And I want
ma'm.
your job to be a lot easier, Brother Lukman.
It reminds me, here's an example, based on what you said, I'll give some mass on this. You got to be able to detect where people are on the tone level, and then you got to speak to them in a way to get them up so you can do the communication. Years ago, I'd never forget this call as long as I live. Years ago, I was working as a paramedic, and we had this call, and when I got there, the call came in as chest pain. So, okay, chest pain, there's a little worry there. But I have to get there, I have to do an assessment and figure out where this chest pain is coming from. So it was an older brother and his wife, and he was, she's kind of distraught. So I kind of see her, she's distraught, she's worried, and I see him. I hook him up to, we do the EKG and whatnot. I can see his heart rhythm and whatnot, and I see it's not heart related, it's something else. So what I have to do to break the ice, and this is just something that I just do. This is just, maybe I get this from my dad. I always do stuff to bring out some humor because, laughter changes the tone. So I asked the brother, I said, well, brother, do you have a history of you have a cardiac history? No. You need medications? No. So. I said, you have any problems with your stomach? He said, no. He said, yeah, I think, I can feel this pain. I said, do you think it could be your wife's cooking? And they both stopped, they both looked at me, and they both busted out laughing. So what just happened? Immediately, just making one statement, but you got to feel the environment, see if you can get away with something like that first. But what happened was, not only did her tone change, where she wasn't worried anymore, his tone changed, because sometimes a person can worry themselves into a medical emergency. His tone went up. And if I remember correctly, we didn't even have to transport them to the hospital, because just by sitting there talking to them for a certain amount of time, the pain started to subside, and they realized that it wasn't a cardiac event. Does that make any sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in other words, it's just that you got to be able to detect where people are on the tone scale, and you got to figure out how you can communicate with them, not so much on their level. You can meet them on their level, but you have to bring them up. Because if you're dealing with people that are acting belligerent, you can't give belligerence to belligerents, because then that squares the belligerence. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
That increases it. You have to know how to take the power away from them and then move them up the tone level.
Mm.
And if you look at how the minister teaches, that's basically what he does. He's really postulate processing. He's taking us from a certain level, and then over the course of 2 or 3 hours, what is he doing? He's increasing us. He's bringing us up. He's doing postulate processing. He's bringing us up the tone scale.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Sister Ania.
I know as soon as I clicked over to another screen, you would call my name. As Sister, who was talking? Was it Sister Shayla? Yes, Sister Shayla. She was talking about acknowledging a person's conversation, even if you don't agree with what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
It made me think about this movie I watched a week or two ago about this young man who he went to a radio station and took the people there hostage. and they all thought it was because you know, he was asking for a certain amount of money, and they all thought that it was because he wanted all of this money. But in the final analysis, what it was, he just wanted to be heard. And so her comments made me think about that movie, and it's a really good one. I'll try to get the name of it before we get off the call and put it in the chat. But there's a lot in that movie. Excellent, excellent. But the comments that I wanted to make, and again, going back to something that Sister Shayla said about the order, that more so than organizing is to bring order to the environment. And she gave the example of the cluttered room and so much clutter. She said, but if you just go in and, you know, just start it, you know, she started with the table. And instead of trying to clear out the clutter, she just put order to the items that were in the table, that were on the table. And that just doing that, it would start to bring a change into the mind state and start bringing that person up the tone scale. And then you also said about in processing, if a person is in a state of apathy, you ask them to do a small thing. You know, would you get me a glass of milk, or pass me the book, please? And you said to move them up slowly. And that both of those things made me connect to a chiropractic adjustment. And what the minister is doing with us in all of these years, he's been giving us a chiropractic adjustment to bring us out of this negative, apathetic state that we're in. And when you do that adjustment, the chiropractor, you know, he makes his appointment for you, and he goes in, and then 2 or 3 minutes later, he's through. Okay, come back tomorrow. And the next day you come back, he does the same thing. Okay, come back the next day. And this goes on week after week, week after week, that he's doing these small adjustments. And I remember I had a beautiful chiropractor in Phoenix, and I used to ask him about I guess the tech of chiropractic adjustments. And he says what happens is that when you make that adjustment, the body is so out of line that it has become used to, its new normal has become the misalignment. And so in order to get you back in the proper alignment, when he makes that adjustment, the body, it holds for just a short while, and then it goes back to the misaligned position. And so he has to keep repeating that until the body says, oh, okay, this is the new place. This is where I'm supposed to be. And then once it's reset to that adjusted position, he moves it again. And the same process takes place until the body accepts that now new position. And that goes on and on and on until you come back to the correct alignment of where you're supposed to be. And so I thought about that in how you said moving the person up slowly to help them build their own self-determinism. And that's what the minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, is doing with us over all of these years to get us back in correct alignment, back on the A tone, in tune with Allah. Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. As you're speaking, it reminds me of what the minister said with regards to people wonder why I keep repeating the same message. And you just explained it perfectly. He has to repeat the same message because he makes the adjustment. Then we go back out to this world and we all get all skewed all over again. Then we go listen to the minister. He has to make another adjustment. And because we have 1 foot in the mosque and 1 foot still in the world, you know, we keep putting ourselves in an environment that keeps us out of alignment, you know, and that's why he's repeating certain messages. And someone was like, well, I haven't heard that 1,000 times. Well, obviously it hasn't applied because, or hasn't worked because you haven't made the adjustment yet. So he's got to repeat it again. And here's another thing. It's interesting to say that when you study genetics, in genetics, you have something called a stutter gene. And a stutter gene is a sequence in the DNA that repeats over and over again. And what a geneticist will do is when they see a repetition over and over again, the stutter gene tells you where the problem is. It's like when you tell your child the same thing over and over again. Well, that's where the problem is. Does that make sense? Nadia? Is she still with us?
Yes, sir, that makes sense.
Okay, I'm looking at what you just said, and now I'm like, it's like I'm feeding off your energy and I'm seeing all these other things going on. But you know, what repeats in our life? What do we keep doing over and over again? That's where the problem is. Go ahead, Sister Tina.
Yeah, this is good. Bouncing off of Sister Ani and Sister Shayla and yourself. In concentrating me and concentrating on the parentheses, inside the parentheses, concentrating on my inner self. I just had an experience where I was talking to one of the believers, and you know, she got upset with me discussing the shots, discussing that. She, you know, got upset with me, and not going into detail, but she kind of like hung up abruptly, you know, and so I haven't been able to get back with her yet, even though I text her a couple of times. So like Sister Shayla said, to be present in the moment, it's difficult, but it's something I've been practicing really for a while, since practicing more and more and more since Brother Pateen's class in the very beginning, with me understanding Dianetics better, and your class, Brother Lukman. So it's been a gradual exercise for me to be present in my own head in the moment and not imagine I know what someone is thinking and go negative. Okay, she hung up abruptly because you know what I said, and then go negative. No. So with that call a couple of days ago, I had to keep telling myself, I don't have actual facts. I don't know why she got upset. I don't think I said anything purposely. In fact, I know I didn't say anything purposely to get her upset. It, you know, she really displayed some type of aberration, you know, but I don't know what it was. So I won't know until I talk to her. And so I had to keep telling myself, don't go there. Don't go negative. Like, oh, such and such and so, she's thinking such and such and so. I don't know what she's thinking. So I'm having this constant conversation with myself, not to go negative inside my own parentheses, because that problem, I had to solve that problem, not by having the actual facts from her. The variable is not known. I don't know. So I had to just solve it within myself and be determined not to think negative, because I don't have actual facts. Just go on actual facts. Just, you know, I don't know, you know, and I pray everything is okay with her, but I don't know, you know.
What you're saying is don't take it personal.
Yes, Yes, don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. But that has been and that's being present. That's being present, because the present fact is I don't know. That's the present, But if I wanted to go beyond the present and think in the past and well guess, then I'm projecting the future, which is wrong. So my answer will be wrong. So to stay in the present keeps my answer correct. I don't know.
Here's taking what you just said and connecting it to the supreme wisdom in the Holy Quran. Allah uses the word in the Holy Quran. He talks about those that follow based on conjecture. And conjecture, a half truth. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you follow based on half knowledge, you think you're going in one direction, but it winds up bringing you someplace else and you get lost, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Isn't that what Columbus did?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
He wanted to go east, but he went west, and then he got lost. He was half original, and I've heard the minister say half original means that he had half knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
That same principle you can apply in anything. If we have a determination to do something, but we go in the opposite direction, meaning we go based on false information, then we wind up getting lost. What did Columbus do when he came to North America? He started calling them Indians, because he had to lie and say they were in India, because he didn't want the people to know that they were lost. Otherwise, they probably would have killed them, right?
Mm.
So when we go off in the wrong direction, that's called justification.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we have to justify. The minister would use the word deceptive intelligence. Dianetics calls it justification. So then what happens when we justify certain things for some amount of time? Who do we wind up misleading?
Ourselves.
Myself.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one thing I'm striving. I'm trying not to take things personal. If someone gets out of hand, they get a little average, get a little crazy, I try, okay, they're angry. I know they can't be angry at me because I ain't doing anything. But with this tech, I look at them from the standpoint of something has just re-stimulated them. I got to find a way to change this dynamic. And me, I'm a jokester. I'm a jokester. We'll do a call. There'll be a false alarm. Someone burnt some food. They'll be all angry. And I'll be standing, I'm like, well, sister, you know what's going to happen next time you burn some food, right? She says, what? Says you have to fix lunch for all of us. They just stop. And then they bust out laughing. You gotta take the power out of that situation. Just by using humor. I'm a jokester. That it's hard. Maybe you don't know that, maybe you do. I'm a jokester. I will use laughter in a heartbeat to change the dynamics of a situation. And that's just the nature of what we do, the environments that we go into. Use humor, but you gotta know when and where to use it. So you might use it the wrong time and get cussed the hell out. But that's what I don't take things personal.
Yes, sir.
But thank you for that. Thank you for that cognition. Brother Timothy.
Yes, sir. I'm really enjoying this. I wanted to say that how I can see how in the mathematics or even exponents that postulates are present. Like I'm gonna give an example. Like the other day, you said that I'm going to stop, eating sugar, and I identify with that personally because I have, I guess diabetes. I do, and I'm working on the sugar and clean up my diet. So when you said that, I immediately agreed with that, and I began sort of the same process of eliminating the sugar out of my diet and tightening up my diet. So I see how when we make a postulate, we begin to square ourselves. We add more value to ourselves, and I just saw that in the mathematics. And just looking at like on the screen you have, I was looking at and seeing the teachings, how in the last equation, the 4 minus, at -3 squared, I mean -3, but you have the 4 times 4 times 4 and it takes one to 0.0. And that, to me, I looked at that and saw the 64 hidden years on how we were, the minister said that he removed from us our culture, our God, and our religion. And I looked at that at those 3 4s at the bottom. So, and that reduced us to nothing. But like we were talking about earlier, one had to come. And also just on a spiritual sense, just adding one postulate that begins to increase us in value and thought and determinism.
Mhm.
So that was kind of on my mind.
And brother, and maybe that 4 representing foundation represents a people who are the foundation of civilization, and
Mhm.
the 3 negative exponents were the slave maker, the slave trader, and the slave owner.
Yep. Yes, sir. And 300 years of chattel slavery as well. Yes, sir.
I love
Yes,
it.
sir. Praise be to Allah.
Brother Timmy, look up the word square for me real quick.
Yes, sir.
Clear the word squared for us, and let's see how this fits in. You talk about squaring ourselves. What's the word square mean?
It says mark out in squares, multiplied by itself.
Mhm.
That's what I got.
Anything else?
Of a linear unit of measure converted to a unit of area equal to a square whose size is of the unit specified.
Go down towards whatever the definition you're looking at, go towards the bottom, maybe the last 3 definitions.
It's quite like 7 of them here.
Okay.
Let's see. One is to balance. See
Ooh.
that?
Okay. Look at the next 2.
To bring one's shoulders into a position where they appear squared or broad, typically to prepare oneself for a difficult task or event.
What's next?
Secure the help. How do you pronounce this? Acquiescence of
Okay.
silence of someone, especially by offering an inducement.
Is there a definition that says to make honest?
To make honest. And the one I'm looking at, I don't see that.
Okay. What are the synonyms?
One would be even, to level. Let's see. So they have like they have it broken down, and you can break it down into squared, into mathematics, into sport, sailing, astrology. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. Right. Well,
maybe somebody else has a different source. They may be able to bring out something else.
I think I remember seeing where squared means to make honest. Like you get a square deal. Oh, he gave me a square deal.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay. So then a -2 would be dishonest, then, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's say that when we're dishonest, that lowers our tone.
Oh, yes.
Yes, sir.
So there's many ways you can look at the base. Now, at the beginning of the class, you had mentioned the different rules of exponents. God willing, we'll go into that next week. We'll look at all the different rules of exponents and look at, I'll give you one. Where's my, let me stop the share. Let me get this out the way. Okay, I'll give you one so you can kind of see. Here's one rule. Let me clear. Okay, if I say 3 squared times 3 to the 3rd. Okay, one of the rules when you deal with exponents, when you deal with bases that are the same, all you do is you rewrite the number and add the exponents together. That's one of the rules. Okay. But now let's look at this in the way of marriage. Two people coming together, and you both have your different exponents, positive exponents. Then as you come together, it should make both of you greater, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So
sir.
now, if both of y'all are crazy as hell,
Get more crazy.
then what happens is both y'all gonna make each other aberrated as hell.
Right.
And that's called contagion by aberration. That's
Yes,
one of
sir.
the chapters in Dianetics.
I have a question, brother.
Shoot.
So with the exponents, there can be an equation just in the exponents, right?
What do you mean?
Like, let's say you said you had like the 3 with the -2 at top, and then could you add something? Could there be equation right next to that exponent, like a +5? Or
You mean up next to the 2?
you're right.
Oh, so 3 to the -2 + 5?
Right.
Yeah, that's another level of math I won't touch on right now, though.
Okay.
But yes, sir.
Please,
Yes,
not go
sir.
there yet.
Yeah,
Brother.
that's when you start dealing with what's called exponential functions.
Can we simplify it again? Let's go back to the simple form.
Yeah, I'm not
sorry.
gonna, but yes, sir, brother, you
Simple.
can do that.
So Brother Luke,
Mhm.
when you just square something off, what's the formula for that? Just square, like
Okay,
for,
what the exponent is telling me,
okay,
look at this as a cycle of action. So this represents start. Okay, you start where you are, correct?
okay,
Okay. Change. Okay, we'll say C stands for change. You rewrite this. That 2 is telling you to write the 4 2 times. And then you stop by multiplying the numbers. So 4 times 4 is what?
16.
16. Start, change, stop. The cycle of action is the same way you solve an equation, though.
right, so the 16 will be, is that 8? You know, when you square it off.
What do you mean when you square it off?
Oh, okay,
Oh, the 4 squared,
I must be, yeah,
you rewrite this as 4 times 4, and then 4 times 4 gives you 16. So basically, 4 squared equals 16.
oh, okay, okay, I don't know. how
This is
you-
just showing you each step. That way you can go step by step. This is the gradient. Because if I just said 4 squared equals 16, if you don't know the gradient in between there, you'd be like, okay, well, how did you get from here to here?
Mhm.
So whenever I had students do the math, number one, I would never let them use a calculator. Number two, when you turn in your assignment, turn in your scrap paper. Because I want to see how you got the answers. Because if someone just gave you the answers, you turn in your homework, I'm not going with that. I want to see your scrap paper. Because your scrap paper, if you get the answer wrong, then I can pinpoint specifically where you made your mistake. Because where you make your mistake is where the ridge is. So now what we do is we audit your method of solving the equation, and we can find your engram, your ridge. Where is your aberration in this process? So it's like we're auditing your homework, in other words. And I can pinpoint specifically where you're making your mistake at. And it's just either it's something that you don't understand or something that you have an incorrect understanding of. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, real quickly,
Mhm.
Brother Timothy, pull up the word multiplication for me.
Sir, I'm sorry.
The word multiplication.
Multiplication. So,
And find the definition that you feel would apply to the self or the mind.
Okay, this one says the process of combining matrices, vectors, or other quantities under specific rules to obtain their product.
Okay, what's the next one?
The process or skill of multiplying. And
Okay.
let's see. That's all it's giving me.
Or
in this
look up the
particular-
word multiply.
multiply. Okay.
Yeah, look at the word multiply.
Okay. Increase or cause to increase greatly in number or quantity. Increase in number by reproducing. That's all I have for that one, other than obtain from a number another that contains the first number a specified number of times.
Okay, what are the synonyms?
Synonyms are proliferate, grow, increase, snowball, spread, expand.
Okay. So now how would you apply that word to self? Doesn't the minister, haven't we been taught to multiply ourselves?
That's true. Absolutely. Yes,
And
sir.
but now what does that mean? Multiply yourself.
Well, if as an FOI, I would go out and try to recruit more men to become FOI.
Okay.
Make all men join FOI.
So we're trying to
all men and
reproduce
boys.
ourselves.
Reproduce ourselves. That's
Okay.
right.
And then if you just look back what the minister said again, you're the multiplier, the universe is a multiple, because when you deal with multiplication,
Hmm.
your top number is called your multiplicand. So if I say 12 times 3, okay, that top number is called the multiplicand.
Hmm.
3 is called the multiplier, and this number is called the product.
Right.
The minister has said that you are the multiplier. The universe is the multiplicand, and it's up to us to produce a product, right?
That's right.
Okay. Would that be the same as the maker?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes,
Now
sir.
look up the word divide or division.
All right. Quite a few of these.
Okay.
Let's see.
Try to see if you can pinpoint anything that sounds like it's Dianetic or mind or self or something that is a behavior that a person could perform.
A disagreement between two or more groups, typically producing tension or hostility.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So let's just stick with that one for a minute. So if we use PEMDAS according to the self, the first thing we have to do is we start on the inward side of self. We have to locate our exponents. We have to be able to increase or multiply or make ourselves greater. We also have to find disagreements, disputes within ourselves, correct?
Mm.
Okay, because if I take this number and I do this, what does that equal?
3, right?
3. Okay. So what's happening is there's whatever I have, there's something inside of me that's doing what? It's reducing me.
Hmm.
Okay. Have you ever heard the word reduce in Dianetics?
Yes, sir.
Reducing would be the same as bringing someone down the tone scale.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
so we're talking about division. You could say we got to find the things within ourselves that reduce us.
Hmm.
Okay, and then the last two would be addition and subtraction. So addition can teach us whatever is going to benefit us, add that on to ourselves, and whatever is not going to benefit us, subtract it out. Look at the digestive system. We eat certain things, the body takes the food and it breaks it down
right.
to either carbohydrates, lipids, or protein. The body takes and breaks these molecules down and rearranges them in a way that the body can use it, and whatever the body can't use, the body excretes the rest, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I hate to say it like this, but there's certain situations and people that have to be treated the same way. There's certain people we can be with and do certain things, and certain people you got to get rid of them. And that's one thing they teach, I think, in ups and downs. I think that was the course, ups and downs.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
That there's certain people you got to confront or let go. I can't remember the language.
Handle or disconnect.
Thank you, Sister Shayla. You either have to handle something or you have to disconnect, because some people ain't gonna change.
Right.
Right.
And I got enough work. I got enough on my hands to deal with this crazy fool right here. I can't deal with your craziness. I have all my energy to deal with this aberrated individual. I'm not dealing with mine and yours. You deal with yours, but you deal with yours over there somewhere, away from me.
Hmm.
Because I got enough on my hands to deal with this. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to keep people at arm's length. Nope. Nope. I don't want to deal with that. And I text you all day long. Well, fine. When I'm ready to respond, I'll respond. I'm not obligated to respond. I might say, okay, I might acknowledge it, but sometimes I don't respond, because I know if I respond, that's going to generate a conversation and I don't feel like talking. That's just me. That's either my aberration or I just don't want to be bothered. I'm not clear yet.
Me either.
So I'm better than I was 10 years ago by Allah's grace. I'm thankful to the minister. I've learned a lot about myself studying this tech. Good God Almighty. But I know I got a long way to go yet. But that's PEMDAS when you apply it to. Now, if I ask anyone on the Zoom who may not understand what PEMDAS was when you started, do you have a better understanding what PEMDAS is now? Did we get any case gain? Did we get any gradient
Yes, sir.
of what PEMDAS is? Because once you understand once you understand there's an order of operations to solving any problem, and you understand there's only 4 operations, you will use PEMDAS in arithmetic, you'll use PEMDAS in decimals, in fractions, integers, exponents. If God willing, if we do exponents next week, you'll see it's all PEMDAS. When you get up to trigonometry, it's PEMDAS. Trigonometry is only addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Get to calculus, it's still PEMDAS. Because really you're dealing with algebra. And in algebra, you have parentheses, you have exponents. You get to calculus level 2, it's still add, subtract, multiply, and divide, and it's still PEMDAS. Calculus 3, add, subtract, multiply, divide, PEMDAS. Those things stay the same. There's just more rules you have to understand. There's a lot of rules to understand, but it all boils down to, if you understand PEMDAS and 4 operations, you can do any level of mathematics that you choose. You just have to put forth the study to do it. Everyone here can be doing calculus within the next year or 2, if you decided to. There's one student on here that didn't think they could do algebra. And then within an hour, this individual was doing algebra. I'm not going to say any names, but she's got her head to her forehead and she's shaking her head and she's grinning right now. Sister Shea was knocking the ball out the park, boy. She was hitting the math. I apologize for putting you on the spot, Sister Shea.
Okay.
But
Brother Luke.
no, I just want you to say, based on where I remember where we started and when we were working, I'm proud of the fact that you took the time to even do that and to get to where you were going.
Praises be to Allah. Praises be to Allah. And it paid off big time for me when I went to take care of my family members that both parents were sick. And my nephews thought I was so smart. I thought to myself, oh my God, they go to the top school in the United States in their math. And I taught them PEMDAS. I just kind of follow the steps that you taught me.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I will tell you all this week because I have to go. Actually, that took a label off of a 13-year-old that he was ADHD, which he is not. But it just kind of lift the stigma in his mind, maybe not off of his parents because they believe the label, but he absolutely got that he's not that and he can do anything now.
All praise is due to Allah.
So we'll talk more. I really have to get off, but it's been an honor and a pleasure. And inshallah, Allah willing, I will see you guys next week.
Well, we hope for you to share your story next week, Allah willing.
Yeah. Not you guys, but you brothers and sisters. Now I'm gonna go deal with the construction guys, all right? Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
All right, Sister Tina, and we'll go ahead and start wrapping this up.
Yes, sir. Brother Lukman, can you please give a couple of problems that I can work out, even if it's just one, maybe two. Just write down a couple of problems that I can work out using PEMDAS.
You want them now, or you want me to send you a worksheet?
Well, just put them on the board because others may want to try to work it out too.
Okay, we'll let's see. We can try. We'll try maybe one or two. Because it's already been 2 hours and some change. Let's see. If I said, okay.
Okay, you don't have any exponents there. Okay.
Oh, you want an exponent? Let me put an exponent in here. Yeah, that's like nice little curveball for you.
Okay.
So where would we begin to solve this collection of mess?
I thought this was for homework.
No, we're gonna do this real quick, and then if you want, anyone who put your email in the chat, I'll send some worksheets and give you something to work on at your own convenience, on your own time.
Okay. We would start in the parentheses.
Okay.
And write it down.
So now we're inside the parentheses. So now what do we see inside the parentheses that needs our focus first?
An exponent.
Okay, so now what do we do next?
We have to solve what's in the parentheses,
Okay.
which is 2 times 2
Uh-huh.
times 4.
Okay. So what's the next step?
Then the next step would be the exponent.
Okay.
So the exponents is within the parentheses. So
Mhm.
how would that work? Because the exponent is in the parentheses.
What comes after parentheses?
Exponent.
So solve the exponent.
Mhm.
So 2 to the second power would be what?
That's 4.
Okay, so you bring down this 4, then you just bring this down here. You
Mhm.
got this 4, and you got this. So now you can complete the solving of the parentheses. So what's the parentheses?
16.
Okay, so now I got 4 times 16.
Mhm.
I got this over here, which is 12 times 6. And I got the 3 over here.
Mhm.
Can we reduce the 12 over 6?
If you want to, which would be what?
That would be 2.
Why?
6 goes into 12 2 times.
Okay, so yeah, let's make it easy. So 3 plus 2. And then with 4 in this parentheses, what operation is that?
That's multiplication.
That's multiplication. So what's 4 times 16?
That's 64.
So we got 3 plus 2 plus 64 minus 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that, so now we've just removed all the parentheses. We've removed all the exponents. So the only thing would be left is multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So now what's left? So what's the answer?
Multiplication.
67. 67.
67. Okay. So when you're doing the PEMDAS, you're going through the PEMDAS and you're going from left to right. Now was that easy?
Yeah, that was I'm just looking at when you have an exponent within the parentheses, that is like really working 2 of the orders at one time.
Well, you're inside the parentheses.
Mm-hmm.
So now, while you're in here, you have to solve all of these things. So you
Right.
so now all you gotta do is, okay, parentheses. What comes after P? Exponents. So now if there's exponents inside the parentheses, simplify the exponents.
Mm-hmm.
And then you simplify that down to 4. And it's 4 times 4. Now I can complete the figuring out of the parentheses, which gave me the 16.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you just remember PEMDAS and go left to right.
Okay.
That's the best starting spot.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna put my email in the chat so you can send me some problems.
Now, if I was to show you something like this, let's say this. If I said 12, if I say, let's say if I said 6 plus, this is, let's see, 4 times. Now this is gonna be a little bit of a curveball.
Hey, brother Lukman, that's 4 to the 3rd power plus. Oh, whoa.
Yeah,
You put them all in there. Okay.
follow the same rule. Okay,
Okay.
you go into the parentheses, right?
Yes.
Okay, but you see a parentheses inside the parentheses, right?
Right.
Yes, sir. I thought you was making a mistake, but I see you not. Go
Oh.
ahead.
So now solve what's inside the parentheses.
So we're inside in that. Okay, I'm with you.
4 times 3 is what?
3, 12.
Yeah, 9.
What'd you say?
Oh, we doing the multiplication first inside the parentheses. 12.
Well, that's PEMDAS, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So we're inside the parentheses, but there's
Okay.
another parentheses inside the parentheses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we're not only on the inner part of the equation, we're on the inner part of the inner part of the equation. You always just follow PEMDAS. So you got 4 times 3 is 12, right?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I still put the square sign up here. And I
Okay.
still have the 6 and the plus. Okay, I still have that. I still have this.
I have a question.
Shoot.
You already solved the 4 times 3. So why do you still have to put the 12 in a parentheses?
Cause we got a 2 up there.
Because I got the square up here.
Got to square the 12.
This square tells me that everything inside this parentheses is
Has
going
to
to
be
be squared.
squared.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so even if you remove that first parentheses, it's still going to tell you that the 12 is squared.
Yeah, I can write that. Yes, I can write this. I can do this like this. I can do that. I
Yeah,
can do that.
Because that's how I'm understanding it. Once you solve what's in the parentheses, it's no longer in the parentheses.
I can do it like that too. Yes, I can.
Right.
Ooh, the way we seeing this, boy, this is something. Okay, I like that too.
Now watch this though. Watch what happens if I don't follow the rules. If I take this and I make that as 4 squared times 3 squared.
Mhm.
Okay. What's 4 squared?
That's 16.
Okay. What's 3 squared?
9.
What's 9 times 16?
Ooh, 3 carries 6, 153.
Are you sure?
154. Wait a minute, what? Yeah, 153. Isn't that 153?
154. I think 9 times 6 is 50.
144.
No. 154?
144, right?
If 6 times 9 is 54,
54. Okay. Then you carry a 5. 144. Okay.
okay. So now, if you notice 144, oh wait, no, I take that back. There's a rule in multiplication where multiplication is commutative.
Mm,
Okay, so here's one of those rules. Okay,
mhm.
so what's 12 squared?
144.
144.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
You
So
can
you
work
come
it
up-
either way.
So you can, this works for multiplication, but you would not be able to do it for subtraction because multiplication is
It's
commutative and it's associative, but we'll get in that at another time.
Okay.
So now 144 plus 6. So now I'm solving this next parentheses, which gives me what?
150. I mean,
Yep, she said 150.
150. Okay. Now I got to go over here. I have another exponent. So I solve my parentheses.
okay.
The next one is what? Exponents.
Exponent.
Okay.
4
So 4 to the 3rd power would be what?
4 times
16 times 3.
64.
times 4.
4 times 4 times 4. So it's 16 times
64.
4.
Okay.
Oh, you just added.
And so now, yeah, because here's my addition sign right here.
That'd be 2. That'd be 2.
At 214.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Right.
214. Okay.
Right. 214.
But this was a little curveball because I had a parentheses inside of a parentheses.
Right.
And all you gotta do is just follow PEMDAS. Do your parentheses first. Here's a parentheses. So you start in the parentheses. You find another parentheses. That's your starting point.
Okay.
The parentheses is always the starting point. So you solve that. So now what's next? Exponent. Now we solve the exponent, but we still are inside this parentheses.
Okay.
So we have to solve this first. And that was this. So now we solve the parentheses, what do? Now we go back to exponent. So the main thing is remove all your parentheses and remove all of your exponents.
Hmm.
Because once you do that, then it comes down to just add, subtract, multiply, and divide.
Mhm.
I think it's that word remove. Once you remove, you go inside and you deal with everything inside of you. That's what I'm seeing.
Then everything else becomes easier to deal with, doesn't it?
Yes, it'd be easy. And once you go inside of you, you know, it's like it's not about what happened to you, it's your response. That's what I'm looking at, is your response on whatever is happening to you. Because I remember these problems and I used to have to go to sleep after working it out, you know, because you go and you just keep until you get to the end of it first, everything inside of you, and then you can add. So you know, Minister said he emptied himself out. He said he got everything out of him. He told jokes, he did this, he did that, and then afterwards, you know, it was like the you know, like a lot can use us. You done emptied out all the stuff in us. Now I can use that girl. I can use him now, you know. Oh my God.
But now let's look at this from a Dianetic standpoint. What
Okay.
if the parentheses represents the lock or the engram? And then now you have to go in the engram, what do you have to do? You have to remove the exponent, meaning you have to remove that which is causing the aberration.
Okay.
Once you go inside and remove the aberration, then what happens to the rest of the process? The rest of the process becomes easy, right?
Right. Yes, sir.
But that's what processing is. Once you get to the root and find out where the aberration is, all the locks and everything that are connected will blow because you got to what's called what? The basic. So
Basic
the,
base.
the parentheses could be the basic.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was trying to think about the processing class. You know, when you instructing the processing class, it's like this is not all you know you have to get. Well, this is easy, simple. I said it always starts off like that, you know, but you have to learn other things. So
But you have to learn them on a gradient scale. Because if you give someone,
exactly.
if I was to start showing you different aspects of calculus right now, some of y'all, your screens would go out. You'd leave the meeting. Because some of those equations,
Yes, sir.
you look at them, but I think once before we went through something called equation clearing. We look at the equation, we just broke it down to piece by piece. You know, we did it with the formula for circumference when we did the circumference of all the planets in the problem book.
Yes, sir.
And when we did that, didn't it make it easier to understand that formula?
Yeah, and doing something over and over again.
Yeah, once you practice it and you do it, it becomes second nature. Then the formulas and these equations become, you look at this like, oh, that's nothing. I can do that with my eyes closed. And that's why we want to learn the mathematics, because how else can we crack open the problem book unless we have an understanding of mathematics and the language and the operations and the symbols? No, we don't necessarily have to solve the problems mathematically, but learning mathematics will give us a better understanding of how to start to go into our wisdom.
Yes, sir.
Mhm, mhm.
Yes.
Brother Lukman,
Yes.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Okay, now, the basic is just and just tell me if I'm right. Basic is the first engram on a chain.
Yes, the
Is that
basic is the
right?
first engram on the chain, and the basic is where
Is the-
everything begins.
Right, that's the first engram on the chain of engrams,
Yes.
on the whole chain. Okay, so looking at this problem, that first, which if we were looking at this as basic and basic, which of the parentheses would be the basic and which one would be the basic?
We could say that the basic would be the one that's the innermost part of the parentheses.
Okay. Mhm.
That's your basic. That's where, because that's where you have to start in order to solve the problem, right?
Right.
Okay. In auditing, how do you solve the problem? The goal is to get, now you'll find other equations, you'll find other equations to reduce. But the goal, according to the book one, was you want to get to basic.
mhm,
It's the innermost part of the innermost part of the person.
mhm. Okay.
So
Wow.
PEMDAS does apply to auditing. If you understand the significance of the parentheses being equating to the basic, the exponents could represent, especially negative exponents, could represent those allies, those suppressors.
Mhm,
And the negative exponent doesn't necessarily have to be a person. The negative exponent could be a circuit.
mhm.
Okay, the negative exponent can be a circuit because the circuit does what? It reduces you lower than yourself, correct?
Okay.
And then the positive exponent could be pleasure moments,
Mhm.
because pleasure moments does what to your tone? It brings
It
it up.
brings up.
Circuits do what? Brings your tone down. So here again, we're using mathematics as a demo kit to give us an illustration of how the auditing, how the process works. And then what you can do is, as you study the equations, write down your own cognitions. What comes to your mind when you go through these equations? When I give you the worksheet, and do the math, not only solve the math, but be aware of your thought process and keep notes as to what questions come up in your mind, what statements come up in your mind, because wouldn't that be your self-accusing spirit?
Yes, sir.
The
Yes, sir.
self-accusing spirit does what? It guides, reproves, informs, right?
Yes, sir.
So as you're doing these math problems, be aware of be aware of that self-accusing spirit that's giving you data now. When I
Okay.
study, I keep a pad of paper. When questions pop up in my mind, I write down the question. I'm like, I don't know where that question came from. But when I study that question, it gives me it takes me deeper into certain things. So I know that I'm not the source of that question on that level. And that's when you know Allah is present. Because Allah is the teacher, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So we don't wait for the mothership to land and for the believers to come out and come up and greet. But I like to look at it as when I'm studying and I receive new information and new insights and new cognitions, I take that as the presence of Allah.
Okay.
For some of us, he'll speak to us through mathematics. Through some, he'll speak through cooking. Some he'll speak through whatever it is our fields of study, whatever fields we're in. If we just get quiet and listen, Allah will speak to all of us. We all have that positive exponent, but that negative exponent talks too. And we got to be able to discern between the two. One brings us up and one reduces us.
That's right.
Brother Lukman,
Yes.
I'm talking about that negative exponent. The sugar fast that you and Brother Timothy plan to do.
I am
Um,
on my third day of no processed sugar.
Oh,
Okay.
praise due to Allah.
I went through hell yesterday though.
Well, that's what I wanted to address, because several years ago, there was a group of us that did the same thing. And, it's like you're allowed a certain amount of grams of sugar per day, which really starting off amounted to maybe a teaspoon of honey or, something like that in your coffee or tea.
Mhm.
And I started off great. First few days, oh boy, I felt wonderful. And then all of a sudden, crash. I don't know, everything just felt like I was coming down with a cold, stuff was coming out from the nose, from here, there,
Yes.
everywhere. I was laying in the bed, had no energy. And so that's the part of what they call the healing crisis. I'm sure you know about it,
Yes,
but
that's
I don't know if
God
Brother
is
Timothy,
detoxifying.
I don't know if Brother Timothy's aware of it. It's called a healing crisis.
Mhm.
Yes.
and you will feel terrible and think that you might even think that you're dying or that you've come down with COVID or something like that. But if you can, you know, keep taking the water, stick with it, deal with the headaches, or the body aches, whatever comes, and get through that period. It may, for some, it may last for you 24 hours. It may last 2 days, 3 days. It may last 2 weeks. But whenever that period ends, when you come out on the other side, then you're going to feel wonderful. So,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
stick with it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
One thing I learned was detoxing has the same symptoms as the flu almost. And the way you tell the difference is when you have the flu, you almost have no energy whatsoever, and you'll have the fever and everything. But when you're detoxing, you'll have some of the same symptoms, but you'll still have a little bit, you'll still have a little bit of energy left. Now, I haven't done a straight fast without anything. I've been straight juice. There's a juice place up the street, and I get certain juices, like cleansing juices and detox. So I'm still getting sugar, but I'm getting what you call complex carbs. I'm getting the natural stuff, no white processed sugar. And when I drink my tea, to help curb my appetite, I do put a little bit of, I have raw honey. But the main goal is no white sugar, no white sugar, no flour, no bread, no nothing, but just to break the that white sugar, because I'm bad with sweets. I'm real bad with sweets. I went through a period yesterday of having the headaches and whatnot. I got up this morning, and certain aches and pains I had early in the week, I don't have them anymore. And I've dropped 8 pounds since Sunday.
Wow.
Wow.
So
Yes,
I'm
sir.
gonna try to make it. I'm gonna try, and I took the week off from work. I'm gonna really strive to make it to at least Friday or Saturday to do this a full week and see how I feel. But the main thing is I got to leave that white sugar. That white sugar is no good.
No, that's
White
right.
sugar is no good.
Absolutely.
And I've noticed that over the course of the past maybe couple of years, my eyesight started getting a little worse. Some will say that is attributed to sugar. Okay.
I bear witness. That's what happened with me. But they wind up treating the symptoms, and that caused the glaucoma with the treatment. But it was really because of white sugar for so many years in sweet tea, drinking, sweet tea. When I was living down south for about 5 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
ain't not like sweet tea from down south, man. I tell you.
It'll kill you. It will
will.
blind you. I tell you that much.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Sister Deborah.
Oh, yes, sir. I am right there with you and Brother Timothy. I decided I was going to try this sugar kick too. So I have a question. I have juice, orange juice, ginger, pineapple, turmeric, and it's kind of sweet. So what I have been doing is cutting it with water and making just from 1 16-ounce, I can get like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 glasses from that, just cutting it with water. Is that helping at all? I'm just asking.
Well, let me ask you, are you getting stuff that's prepackaged from the store, or are you getting it from from juicing itself?
Well, the juice I got from the sister at the mosque that makes it at the mosque.
Oh, so she juices at the mosque.
No, she brings it from home. I'm not sure if
No, I'm
she's
saying
using...
is something that she juices herself.
Oh, yes.
Okay, that's fine. When you start getting store-bought stuff, you got to worry about high fructose corn syrup, and you have to look at the fact that even though they call it natural juice only has to have a certain percentage of juice in it to be called natural, and then the rest of the stuff is just fillers. So if she's juicing it herself, that's one thing. Typically, you really don't want to drink any juice that has been in containers longer than 48 to 72 hours, because it starts to oxidize, it starts to lose some of its nutritional value. But
Okay.
even that is better than store-bought stuff.
Okay,
But if
okay.
you can cut it, yeah, cutting it is fine. Because
Now,
really, the messenger said too much juice is not good. Okay, so I want to put a disclaimer out there. But my thought process is, based on how I've been eating, I think I can get away with it for a couple days just to reset my taste buds. But the
Mhm.
most time Elijah Muhammad said that too much juice is not good.
Oh, okay, all right. Now, I haven't used white sugar in years, but I'm sure, in this processed food, I'm sure it's in there. I've been using
white
raw
sugar is in
sugar and
everything.
honey. Okay. So I'm right there with y'all. I'm trying to do it with you.
So we can have God willing, on Sunday, we can all share our wins. I might look like I'm about 30 years old, hopefully by then.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Talking about that white sugar, I have a jar of white sugar from 1984. That's when I took myself off, buying white sugar to use at home. And so the rest of what was in the package, I put it in a jar to see how long it was going to last. I still have it to this day.
Yeah, that stuff will stay.
Wow.
You sit that right next to them Twinkies, and they both will stay. They both have longevity. Go ahead, Sister Denise.
Yes, sir. I did this paper on is sugar a drug when I was in school, and it was like coming off of, you just named the drug, cocaine or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know that when you're a diabetic, the stevia, you get drops of sugar, little droplets, and you get used to not that real sweet stuff like that honey. You drop honey in there, you talking about a different tune, and how the withdrawals of your body, because it says, give me something. Your body be talking to you.
Yeah.
But I do know the less you give it, and then I know sometimes we want to do natural, but it's like you got to get it off of sugar, period, before you start that natural stuff, because you were naturally hooked, and now you try to unhook yourself. So the less you have of it, and then if you want to do natural, come back to it. But it's like you just got to cut it completely. And I know it's a process, and honey is good to start with, but even I found out that's too sweet, because you pulling back, so your body is not used to that. Used to you giving. And it's almost like a battle that you go to box with your own body, your own mind. Yeah. But you're gonna win. That's what I wanted to say. You're gonna win.
I was in the ring with him yesterday, boy.
How many rounds y'all go? How many rounds?
Man, I was fighting all day. I mean, I had the headache. I didn't want to be bothered. At one point, I just got on the couch. I crawled up under a blanket. I just didn't want to be bothered with no one. I didn't want to talk to no one.
Yeah, what you're doing is a little more a step above me. I'm not doing the juicing at this point, but I'm eating. Like I had something to eat yesterday, but normally I would have sugar flavored creamer in my coffee. I'm not doing that. I'm not eating sweets. I'm not eating those things. So I've tried this before, and it definitely works. And I, like Sister Anya said, and everyone else tests to that, you do have the withdrawals, the headaches, and some sluggishness, so because the body is used to certain things, so especially the sugar, used to the sugar. So yeah, but thank y'all for the information. That helps.
Praise be to Allah. Well, family, yet again, we've gone way past time, but y'all forced me to stay on this long, so. So if there's no closing comments or cognitions or corrections or thoughts, then we will go ahead and close it out. Inshallah, we will see each other on Even though I have to work on Sunday, I will strive to have something together for Sunday. And then God willing, this will be for next Wednesday. Let's look and see, maybe we'll look at the laws of exponents and see how we can connect the law of exponents to aberration and gaining a knowledge of self. Anyone have any ideas or thoughts about future topics that they would like to see covered?
Yes, sir. Still waiting on that sequence that you and Sister Anya was talking about. Sequences.
Oh, sequence and series. Ooh,
Right.
let me write that down. Do you remember specifically? Do you remember what you had said specifically dealing with those concepts?
No, I don't, because it was like maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
Okay.
I'll have to check back in my notes, and if I find anything, I'll shoot you an email, but I can't remember offhand.
Okay. I'll give you this one little tidbit. A sequence, and L. Ron Hubbard uses the word sequence a lot in Dianetics. If I take the numbers 2, 4, 6, and 8, that's a sequence of numbers, correct?
Right.
And that's a sequence of numbers of all the even numbers, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There is a formula. Once you see that sequence, there's a process you can use to figure out a formula to generate that sequence. Okay. The word series in mathematics means if I have a sequence 2, 4, 6, and 8, if I add those numbers together, what number do I get? 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8. Should be 20. Okay. The sequence gives you the pattern of the numbers. The series gives you the sum total of the numbers that are in that sequence. Does that make sense?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. When you apply that to Dianetics, a sequence, and if you look at the word chain is another word that's used in Dianetics, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When you look at the word chains in the Holy Quran, it's interesting where it says chains up to the neck. Remember that where it says
Mhm.
chains up to the neck?
Yes.
The chain represents where the aberration is, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, interesting thought, and maybe this is where we'll go maybe on Sunday. Chain up to the neck. What gland is located in the neck? It's the thyroid, right?
Thyroid. Mhm.
Okay, so the chain up to the neck, when the thyroid is out of balance, it actually can cause the emotions that are low toned. So you can see the connection between the chain and the neck.
Yes.
Did I just
Okay,
leave
because
it
I
in?
was just told that my thyroid might be out of whack.
Do you have hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism?
I believe it's hypo.
Hypo, so you have low thyroid.
Yes.
Okay. Hypothyroidism, if I'm not mistaken, is connected to apathy or anxiety. So
Yeah,
now,
that's about right.
that's it?
Yeah.
Okay. So try to find a sister that can do some either straight wire or some auditing.
Oh, that would be Sister Angela
Okay.
on a weekly basis.
Okay. Try to pinpoint. Now I'm gonna try to send you some other information that I found that might help you pinpoint some things on your time track to audit specifically. And God willing, by auditing those specific things that may be connected to the thyroid, the next time you go to the doctor, they might say your thyroid levels have come back up again.
Okay.
I'm
Yes,
just
sir.
saying it's a possibility.
Yes, sir. Thank
But
you.
I'll send you some info that might be able to help Sister Angela pinpoint some specifics to get that because it seems like you got something that's going on that's applying pressure to that thyroid that's hindering it from doing its job, and that's stuff that's on the time track.
Yes,
possibly.
Yeah.
Is anything coming up in your mind right now?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so make your appointment to see Dr. Angela Muhammad and tell her I sent a
Yes,
referral.
Okay, I most definitely will. Thank
Lead
you.
to Allah. And then you can tell us about your wins.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. All right, family. As always, I'm thankful and grateful, and I appreciate your time and attention. And with that being said, we'll go ahead and close it out. Attention prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the most merciful, Master of the day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve, thine aid do we seek. Please, Allah, guide us on the straight path, the path upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not the path upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray if they've heard thy teaching. Ameen.
I mean,
Amen.
Assalamu alaikum, family.
wow,
Alaikum salam.
Shalom.